Smile for the camera. Okay, so I am going to basically run the D101 and D102 workshop with you. There's actually a lot of slides, but I don't think I'll try to keep it nice and neat and organized. But if you do have any questions, please write them down, and then at the end, I will make sure I give you guys plenty of time to ask me all the questions you have. So please do write them down and then just ask me them at the end, please. But yeah, for now, I shall share my screen with you all. Can you see this? Good. Okay, good. So like I said, today I'm gonna run the D101 and D102 workshop with you guys. It's basically the Asian parliamentary debate classes. This is like the table of contents that I'm going to like walk you guys through. It looks like a lot, it's not that much, but like I said, I'm going to try my best to make sure I explain everything nice and clearly. So if I do a bad job of explaining anything, please just write it down and let me know at the end, and I'll re-explain everything that you guys need. So to begin off, the brief overview of Masters 5.0. Currently in our Masters 5.0 classes, we have 5 different tracks. Today, the track that I'm explaining or going through with you guys is this one, track 4, the debate forum track. And inside the debate forum track, you've got all these different classes. D101 is basically 2 tracks. So it's tracks A and B, and I want you guys to just consider it as like an introductory level, like a very basic level. And then D102, you've actually got 6 tracks from tracks A to F, and that's basically the advanced level. I will explain the difference between these 2 tracks in a little bit as well, but that's just basically the general kind of difference between D101 and D102. For the actual objective of D101, like I said, because these are this class is tailored towards like the beginner students, beginner debaters, you are really working on trying to formulate like a basic understanding. I have simplified like the debate motions so that it's not too difficult for new like beginners to kind of understand how to debate. And then you've also got like a whole lesson dedicated to like framing basic arguments, framing basic reasons. And you have like exercises that are built inside our smart textbook that you can access through the teacher's portal. That kind of build basic rebuttal skills with them. So D101 is all about establishing the basics. By the end of the term, ideally, you would have established like a strong foundation with them. And then because for D101, we've got 2 tracks. So we've got track A and track B. Ideally, in a perfect world, you would want a student to go through both tracks. So tracks A and B, and then if they've completed A and B, they would naturally go into D102. However, sometimes, there might be really, really good like beginner students, and then they can go straight into D102. That's not a problem. But ideally, if you are actually focusing on a very brand new student, often just one term of debate doesn't really, they don't really fully comprehend everything. So I think at least 2 terms of D101 is going to be the ideal pathway for the student. Then you've got D102, and because like I just said, you would be kind of working with students that have already established their foundation from D101, you are going to kind of work on strengthening their fundamental skills even further. You've got more complex debate motions, which will require them to think a lot more like critically and logically and stuff like that. And then you are also not only focusing on their arguments and their reasoning and their rebuttals, but also their delivery in terms of how well they deliver their speech. And you do want to kind of prioritize their public speaking skills, basically, and make sure that they deliver their content at an exceptional level. Because for D102, you've got 6 tracks in total. Basically, you've got a lot of materials to work with them. And then even if a student is to continuously take D102, in order to avoid redundancy, or in order for the students to be like, oh, I've done this motion, oh, I've done this, I've done that. We've basically made 6 different versions of the track with different motions, different exercises and stuff like that, so that students can repetitively take D102. Take D102. I feel like I'm speaking too fast. I'll slow down a little bit. So this is basically everything I just said to you, but maybe the table does a better job of explaining it. This is the key difference between D101 and D102. So like I said, D101 is like level 1. D102 is considered level 2. The reason both of these tracks are focusing on Asian parliamentary debate style is because for any like especially elementary and middle school debate competitions inside Korea, they usually do Asian parliamentary. For example, the YTN debate competition for both elementary YTN and middle school YTN, they will conduct the debate in the Asian parliamentary style. I think it's only when they go to like high school where they start learning like British parliamentary debate and stuff like that. So for these 2 classes, these 2 tracks, we're purely focusing on the Asian parliamentary style so that we can help prepare them for national and inter-branch competitions. Both these classes do follow a very similar class structure, and I will also explain that to you at the next. But like I said, D101 is about the basics, and then D102, we obviously do need to revise and review the basics, but we're kind of using more like debate-oriented exercises to help them review the skills rather than lecturing them the skills. And then we've also added a few more advanced debate skills and debate advanced exercises. Then we've got the basic level debate motions for D101, and then for D102, we're utilizing more advanced debate motions. Then here, the last part here, special debate challenges, basically to kind of, like I said just before, to break the redundancy of the students being kind of like, oh, I've done this before, I've done this so many times, I don't need to learn this and stuff like that. I've added a few special debate challenges into the lessons. And basically in this teacher's portal, this is what it looks like. So this is the debate preparation page here. And then if you click this button here, special debate challenge, it will lead you into that lesson special challenge. And basically these special challenges are like missions for the students to they are missions for you to basically give to the student, and then they're basically focusing on applying the learned lesson in this particular lesson into the debate. And you're kind of utilizing these challenges, you are kind of creating an artificial like debate environment, because you're trying to give them a specific like criteria to apply to the debate or something like that. But this is just going to be quite effective for the students to actually experience and apply what they have just learned in class in a real world, like real life debate. These special challenges are not implemented in all the lessons. For example, down here, I've noted that it's only implemented in week 5, 6, and a few of the lessons, just because I wanted to apply these special challenges for the specific debate lessons that the students kind of have a difficult time comprehending. So that's the purpose of this. If you do have a class of newcomers and they are quite new to debate, I recommend you to not apply the special challenges. I would rather you guys just do the original debate every week until you can see that they are very comfortable and confident with the Asian parliamentary debate. And then just to challenge them and just to give them something different from, every now and then, you can utilize these special challenges. Okay. And then walking into the class structure. This one is just for D101, okay? So from lessons 1 to 10, basically this is how the class is going to be organized. The biggest difference is for D101, you've got the vocabulary test. That's why I put it in asterisk. In D101 classes, they will always have a weekly vocab test. In D102, they don't have a vocab test, and I will explain that in a little bit. But basically, the first hour is dedicated to the vocab test and then beginning the skills lesson. And then usually the skills lesson will run into the second hour, and that's perfectly okay. Especially for D101 classes, in the SMART textbook, there are a lot of built-in exercises and little like activities that I think is very valuable for your students to try, just so that they can actually, you know, apply their learned skill into the exercise, and then they can actually show you what they have learned or understood. So that usually will take about like the first hour and a little bit of the second hour. Then from the second hour onwards, you want to really focus on actually preparing them for the debate, especially for D101, because they will be the new like students or the students that need to kind of, you know, build their foundation. I do highly value the importance of debate topic discussion, just so that you can kind of help guide the students and help them understand what the good things about the debate motion are, what the bad things about the debate motion are. You will find that a very meaningful topic discussion will allow the debate prep to go a lot more smoothly, rather than just kind of being like, this is the motion, guys, okay, go prep. They will tend to struggle a lot. So I think the debate topic discussion is going to be very valuable for these students. Then the third hour is purely dedicated to the debate itself, followed by debate adjudication feedback. I think as the teacher, as the debate teachers, the most important thing that we should be doing is the last thing, that debate adjudication. And therefore, I actually have a component at the end that I will talk to you guys about for the debate adjudication. But anyway, this is lessons 1 to 10 for D101. Then in D101 lesson 11, we've currently got like a skills review, and basically the skills review can be tailored to what you believe your students are struggling with the most. Different classes will struggle with different skills the most. So this is kind of your chance to step in and kind of, you know, teach them or introduce something that your students are struggling with. And then everything else other than that review lesson will just kind of go the same way with the debate prep, and then the actual debate, and then the debate adjudication. Then in week 12, we are introducing the final project with them. And so this basically replaces the entire skills lesson or the skills review component. But then everything else, like I just said before, is identical. You're just working on the final project with them during class time. 50 minutes of class time will not be enough for them to finish this final project. So the majority of this work will need to be done for their homework. But from my experience, I haven't had any issues with students completing the final project at home. So this shouldn't be an issue. And then week 13 currently in our SMART textbook is dedicated to final presentations. You can utilize like the first hour as like a final check kind of session where you are also looking at the work that they have completed at home. You're giving them final feedback, and then they're kind of making little edits and little changes. And then from the second hour, they can actually start doing their final presenting their final project, which for D101 is just a final prepared debate. This one is now we're looking at D102. D102 from lessons 1 to 9 is pretty much the same as the previous lessons. However, instead of the vocab test, we have something called persuasive speaking preview. This is connected to their iLearning, but these pages are built inside our SMART textbook. So if you want to just kind of have a brief discussion about their weekly assigned topic, just so that they have a better understanding of how to complete this homework, you are more than welcome to utilize the class time to do this with them. In the past, if you feel like you have a student that is very good at persuasive speaking and they're very passionate, you are also very welcome to kind of nominate a few students to deliver their persuasive speeches in class. That part is really up to you, but this is just happening in all the odd weeks. So in the even week classes, you can just straight away go into the debate skills lesson without any preview of the iLearning homework or anything like that. And then basically, like I said, everything else from second hour and third hour will be the same as D101. The biggest difference is for D102, the final projects are going to be bigger, so they cannot complete it in just 1 week. So we are going to work on final projects across 2 lessons, lessons 10 to 11. The structure is the same, but the final project actual like working on it is just going to be a week longer than the other D101 final project classes. And then for D102, lesson 12 is actually dedicated to the final project presentation. And then lesson 13 is actually the review followed by a regular debate. So the final project for D102 classes are going to be in week 12, the presentations. And week 13 is the review. Same thing that I said before, you will be tailoring your review skills based on what you feel like your students are struggling with the most. Whew. Okay. Then here, this is an example of D101A class syllabus. The lessons here are going to stay the same for D101A and B. The biggest difference is these topics, the debate topics, will change across the 2 tracks. And if you look at this part here, from weeks 1 to 5, you guys are actually not conducting an official Asian parliamentary debate. You want to ease the students into the debate. You don't want to like bombard them with too much work and then they like have a, they get all scared. You just want to kind of ease them into it. So instead of a full-on Asian parliamentary debate, we're going to break it down. And then for example, in week 1, we're going to work on argumentative debate, where they're just delivering arguments. And then we're doing freestyle debate. We're doing introductory Asian parliamentary debate. And then we bring in the official Asian parliamentary debate. The rules or like the guidelines to how this debate is going to be conducted are all built inside the SMART textbook, and they're just all like the steps are all outlined. So if you have a look at the SMART textbook, it should be pretty self-explanatory, and it's just, you can kind of read the instructions with the students so the students can understand what they need to do. So this is for D101A and B. This is D102, and basically, like I just said, the biggest difference between these 2 is that the final presentation is in week 12 and the review is in week 13. And you can also see that from the very beginning for D102, from week 1, all the students will just be doing official Asian parliamentary debate. You can hold them to a higher expectation because you are going to assume that they have learned, the basics from D101. Like the same thing across the 6 different tracks of D102, the debate topics will continuously change. And you've got a little bit I've added a few new advanced debate skills into the lesson plans. And yes, and then the majority of it is based on reviewing the materials that they learned in their previous program. One of the biggest things that I really do believe is very important for us to monitor as the teachers is the debate teams, the matchups, and the roles. You want to make sure that all your students have a balanced experience on being the government side and the opposition side. You also want to make sure that all your students have a balanced number of experiences doing all the different roles in the Asian parliamentary debate. You don't want your students to continuously be on the same side, and you don't want them to continuously perform the same roles, and you don't want to continuously make them kind of team up with their friends. Make sure that you have some form of system. For example, for me, I always note down what my students have done so that the following week, the same side and same role isn't given to the same student. It's up to you how you want to do it, or you could just, randomize it or whatever, but just make sure that you are monitoring this and that you're not letting them just, consistently perform the same roles. In the Smart Textbook, this page is built in for you. So you are more than welcome to get the students to kind of utilize this. This can be a way for them to also monitor what they have done and who their team members were and what side they were representing, because everything that they input in the Smart Textbook, they also have access to it in their C-Learning anyway. So you are more than welcome to utilize this page to help the students, just track their performances. And then in the FTP, for both the programs, D101 and D102, there will be different segment guides available for you. I got tongue-tied, sorry. Available for you on the FTP. And basically, like you see on the screen, this is everything that will be included in the segment guide for you. There is also this little handout that I prepared. So this is basically a breakdown of all the specific roles in the Asian parliamentary debate. And basically it's just highlighting what different roles have to do. There's also a similar handout that looks like this, which is basically the speech format and transitions, which basically just outlines all the basic transition words the students should use just to kind of organize their speech. For D101, remember, because they are only starting the official debate from week 6 onwards, I personally recommend you to give this to them in week 6. Because if you give them this from day 1, it just kind of like, they just get a little bit too scared because they don't understand half the things that are on this paper. And then they're like, oh, I can't do it. And, we don't want to scare them away. So just ease them in for the first 5 weeks. And then from week 6 onwards, when you guys are starting the official debate, I would give it to them so that they can utilize it as just, an additional, guidance for them. But at the end of the day, you know your students much more than I would know. So you can decide whatever you think is best for your students. Yes. And then on the FTP, there is also the adjudication form that we have uploaded for you. Basically, in this adjudication form, I have outlined specific categories that you could use to grade or score your students. For example, if you look at this, this is a very bad screenshot, but if you look at this example here, the Prime Minister, I'm going to grade them for coherence, clarity, how good their status quo was, how good their motion definition was, how relevant their arguments were, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to utilize this and I'm going to score them out of the scores that are dedicated here. And then this is just going to give that speaker a total, performance score. At the end of the day, you will add up all the government points together, and then you'll add up all the opposition points together, and then eventually the team with the highest point is going to win. The reason why I encourage my debate instructors here to utilize this is because we can actually try to keep it as objective as we can. And we're looking at, numbers and scores to kind of, really judge who did a better job. However, ironically, at the end of the day, if your students go out to competitions and stuff, even though their skills are superior to the opponent team, if the opponent team does do a better job of emotionally persuading the adjudicator, that team is going to win. So I think, for debate, it's quite hard to, do a very fair job of adjudicating because we are all human. But I do think that for the students, when you're actually trying to help them learn, this kind of grading criteria is going to be very helpful, because in the very beginning, I'm actually going to utilize these criteria to give them feedback. For example, the student may be very, very good at speaking with clarity. However, they could have lost a lot of points for argument relevance. Then I'm going to make sure I tell that to that student so that they can, improve that specific area, and then they can get better and better and better. So yes, this is the adjudication form. At the end of the day, like I said, you guys can decide what you believe is going to be more helpful for your students, but I do believe that this is a very good way to kind of start off the adjudication, and then you can kind of, tailor it your own way, and then find, better ways to kind of, adjudicate that specific class or something like that. But this is all available for you, so please use it if you would like to. Okay. Next. This is an overview of all the lessons in the teacher's portal. Majority of the screenshots that I have here are all available for you right now on the teacher's portal anyway, so you are more than welcome to have a look at the teacher's portal. But I just have a few examples. Basically for the D101, the cover page, and then you've got the table of contents, and then you'll just kind of, check what each lesson is going to be about. And then you will see that for all the D101 classes, the specific skills is in the tab, followed by specific examples, followed by actual exercises that will be implementing the skill you have just previously taught them. Okay, so like I said, that's why the D101 skills component is going to take quite a bit of time, because you're teaching it, you're going over an example with it, and then they are actually doing it, and then you'll nominate a few students to share it with the class, or you can kind of proctor around and then work on the examples they've created one-on-one or something like that. But basically, this is how all the lessons for D101 is going to be organized. This is just how the motions will be laid out. So for all your lessons, there will be a suggested debate motion. However, you're more than welcome to utilize something else or a debate motion that you believe your students will be more interested in. However, I do strongly encourage you to stay within the debate topic. So if the debate topic is health, you don't need to utilize this suggested debate motion, but I would like you to create a new debate motion that is, within the topic of health. The reason why I say this is just so that, because we have kind of lined up all the debate topics to be different from one another, if you just kind of, use a different debate topic, it might come up in the next track, and then, it might just get a little bit confusing. So just try to stay within the debate topic. And then basically the students can utilize this tablet, the smart textbook, to input all their debate prep notes and stuff like that inside the smart textbook if they want to. Yes. Then this is an example of D102A. So for D102 programs, there is still a skills lesson built inside the smart textbook, followed by additional, advanced skills that I have incorporated into the lesson plan. But one of the biggest changes is some of the debate skills are attached as an appendix. So for example, this example I have here, we attach the argument structure as an appendix because this is a very basic skill that they should have established in D101. However, if you want to spend time going over it, you're more than welcome to, just click this button, and then it will lead you to this page here. There are, however, some skill lessons that are actually just in the actual lesson page. For example, here I have a little activity for them to fill out, and then the very next page, I've actually provided all the answers for them instead of attaching it as an appendix. The big reason here is because I believe there are certain skills that are very basic and easy for most students to understand. So they would have established this understanding previously, but then there are debate skills that they just need to keep kind of be taught again and again and again and again until they kind of fully oh, okay, I get it kind of thing. So for those type of skills, I've actually just incorporated it into the lesson, versus some skills that are very simple, they're just attached as an appendix, but you guys can just utilize those pages as well. But that's basically the biggest difference. And then we're going into final projects. For all D101 final projects, it's basically a prepared debate. All the specific instructions are outlined in the smart textbook for the students, and you have all this information in the segment guide for the final projects. Basically, the biggest reason why I chose a prepared debate is just so that if you are ever interested in sending your students out to Cheongdam debate competition or Cheongdam debate competition, they kind of currently the debate is prepared debates. So you can kind of, help your students, prepare for that if you want to, but that's basically the final projects for all D101 classes. Everything, like I said, all the steps are inputted they're included in the smart textbook. So if you just kind of go through the pages with them, completing this final project should be pretty self-explanatory, but if you want, like I said, all this information is available for you in the segment guide. For D102, like I said, because we do want to challenge these students a little bit more, every final project for all the 6 tracks will be a different final project. For example, in D102A, the final project is preparing a prime minister's speech. And then this is like how this tablet is going, the smart textbook is going to be laid out. And then for D102B, the final project is called Making the World a Better Place. And then just the same thing as the previous one, all the steps are outlined in the smart textbook for them. And for you, it's all in the segment guide. So you just kind of have to follow the pages and then it will just be pretty self-explanatory. But yes, so every final project for all the 6 tracks in D102 will have a different final project. And that's just going to kind of help refresh things a little bit instead of just doing the same thing again and again for these students. Yes. And then this is just a little bit of a clarification on the difference between D101 and D102 with the vocab test. So D101, they will all have the standard SMART vocab test. All the vocab lists are available for you in the FTP. You can just print them out to them, or you can it's all there for you in the FTP. They study their weekly words, they come in, they do the vocab test. It's kind of the same as all the other 5.0 classes. For D102, the persuasive speech is this last part here. So basically, they're just going to get like a topic, and then they have to frame a persuasive speech about that topic. Because sometimes the topic might be a little bit difficult for the students, or if you have suddenly a new student join and they might not have, they might not clearly understand what they need to do. In all the odd lessons, you have these 2 pages put in the very beginning of your smart textbook. And it just kind of outlines the requirements for what they need to do versus what the topic is, and then a few like discussion-based questions that you can answer with your students just to help them gain a better understanding of the topic. This is, like I said, it's not like it's a mandatory component. In the beginning of the term, I do believe you should, spend some time on this because, you want to make sure all your students have a, clear understanding of what they need to do. But in the later half of the term, if you feel like your students have got it and you have, a lot more other stuff that you want to cover in the lesson, it's okay for you to not go over this. But I do believe that this is a very meaningful way to kind of begin the class because you got them talking and then you're interacting with each other, discussing pros and cons. So I do think that it's a very good idea to spend just about 10 minutes, like a warm-up type of exercise in the very beginning, to kind of just recap what they need to do, and then you can just facilitate meaningful discussions about whatever the topic is for that week. Yes. And then, whoa, did I speak too fast? It's already notes. Sorry, guys. So this basically is going to be very similar to what I said when I was going over this handout here. But I do believe one of the most important things that we have to make sure we do as a debate instructor is to give very meaningful debate adjudication feedback. Number one, if you kind of always end up running out of time at the end, and then they all have to run away home because of the shuttle bus and whatever, it gets very hard to continuously motivate your students to work hard for the debate, because they're like, oh, what's the point? No one's gonna win. Teacher's always gonna say we don't have time, and so to make sure that they continuously put in effort, I truly believe debate adjudication is very, very important. And sometimes it feels really bad to kind of give them oh, you guys won, you guys lost. But I think at the end of the day, it is kind of like it's like a sport, and there's, you've always got to kind of have a winner. So even though you are really torn between, oh my God, I don't know which should win, which side should win, still just choose a side. And just make sure that you do congratulate the team that wins, and then you can just, encourage the team that doesn't win. But do make sure that you really do give them this feedback, because I have seen like classes that kind of just, they start off really well and then they know that they're not gonna get feedback, and so they just and it's very hard to pick it up again. So please bear in mind your time management. I believe a good, decent like adjudication feedback should be at least 15 to 20 minutes. So just always be aware of that. In the event that something does happen and then you really do run out of time and they have to go home, then do make sure you follow up the adjudication in the beginning of the next class. However, you know, just make sure that it's not like a consistent pattern. When you give adjudication feedback, I really want you guys to focus on both team feedback and individual feedback. Individual feedback as in, oh, you did this very well, but I need you to work on this, so that the individual student understands what their strength and their weaknesses are. I want you guys to also focus on team-based feedback, because I think you guys should all like already, you probably have noticed this, but like there are a lot of students who struggle to work together as a team. And they're very like, this is my work, so I'm gonna get graded with my work, so I don't care about your speech, my speech needs to be great. And then obviously like in debate, that does backfire, because every single member in the team has to have like a uniform understanding of their stance. They need to help each other to actually really, you know, convince the adjudicator to, you know, for the win. So I really do focus a lot on the team-based feedback. And this can just be like highlighting something that this team did well and something that you want this team to work on. But I do believe you should incorporate both team and individual feedback. And then the last thing is basically, in a perfect world, all our debate classes will have like 6 or 8 students, and then it will just be 4 versus 4 or 3 versus 3. But sometimes, you know, we do get like 4 debate classes with 14 students, or sometimes it's like the reverse, and then we only have like 4 students showing up, or, you know, stuff like that. So to help you guys kind of conduct those debate classes, either whether that it's too small or too big, these pages are outlined for you in the not smart textbook, in the segment guide. And it's just my recommendations on how to run debates if you have too many students versus like, yeah, if you have too many students. And then if you have like only like 3 or 4 students, something I recommend you guys to try is you can actually debate against your students. Or you can have like, if you have 4 students, you can just have like 2 versus 2, and then the students can just duplicate their roles. But either way, whether it's a small size class or a big size class, just have a look at this page just to kind of have a, you know, understanding of how different ways you could run an Asian parliamentary debate. Yes. And thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Please ask me questions. Wait, I need to see everyone's right. Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
I just want to know, those things are available on the FTP, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just double checking. Thank you.
Yes, everything will be there for you in the FTP.
Do you?
My question is just, are there, do you have any recommendations for like video resources where we could watch an example of Asian parliamentary debate and or show to students?
Oh, yes. If you on YouTube, like if you look up YTN debate competitions, or you just go into the YTN website, like you just Google it and go into YTN, they have like a whole tab of like materials for all the previous winners. So you can always utilize that. Just be aware that like for the elementary, their speeches are only 4 minutes. And then for middle school, it's 6 minutes. So you might want to show them the middle school one just because all our tablet says our speeches need to be 6 minutes. But yes, the materials should be all there for you.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you so much.
No, no problem.
I had a similar question.
Yes.
Is there an Asian parliamentary equivalent of Robert's Rules of Order?
What do you mean?
The definitive book, a well-known book that's the definitive.
No, I was actually looking for that too when I was first like designing this, like, you know, beginning like my debate program, whatever thingies, but like there is not. And there's a lot about British parliamentary, but there actually isn't a lot about Asian parliamentary. So basically all the materials I have gathered, I have just, you know, looked at multiple different sources and put it together, or I've just, you know, incorporated, you know, things from my previous experience. So I think, yeah, there wasn't any particular, like, you know, definite like book that I could study for it. But hopefully if you look at the lessons, like the way that things are set up, it should kind of, you know, be very clear, hopefully. And so it should make, like, it should give you a very clear understanding of how to teach it. But once again, like Will asked before, if you do want to kind of just, you know, have it for your own knowledge, I do believe watching those videos will be quite meaningful if you want to kind of understand how the debate is structured.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No? Really?
I was gonna, so my experience, this is my first time ever doing Asian parliamentary. When I debated, I was a high school debater. I was on a debate team and I went to competitions, but I did policy style, which is similar in some ways, but it's different in others. Do you have recommended like Asian parliamentary specific like skill sites or drill sites practice, like for extra skills if you're needing extended practice on a certain skill with the
I think for Asian parliamentary debate, like, I think, like I said, all the skills that are established in the SMART textbook are like the fundamental things. And if you, especially if you have that debate experience and you know, like more like advanced skills or, you know, like special things that you have done as a debater and you want to teach it to your students, I believe you should go for it. I think especially for D102, since they have that foundation, you have more room to kind of, you know, put in your individual work to kind of help them advance even further. I believe that for the first level, like D101 students, it will be better if you kind of keep to the basics. But whatever you guys believe is more like, oh, my students are really good at everything on this tablet, but I know that they're not good at this, and this is from your own experience. I'm strongly for you to like just go and teach it, and you can just kind of incorporate it into your lesson. For example, in the past, there was a request for like adding logical fallacy into the lesson plan, but because like the lessons were already developed by the time, I couldn't add it in. However, if you feel like, you know, teaching your students about logical fallacy is going to be very effective in improving their performance, I think you're more than welcome to, you know, do that and incorporate that into your lessons.
And then the other question that I have is regarding note taking, because I picked up the class from another teacher who had already established a style and trying to support the students in what they're used to while introducing other skills. They use a notebook and they do all of their speech writing in the notebook. The style I'm used to is, again, my background is we had to prepare for 4 different topics. We had different things and we had to prepare both pro and con side, because for the competitions we were preparing for, you didn't know what you were getting into until you got in there, so you had to have everything prepared. And this was back in the early 2000s, and so we didn't have like tablets and things to do our research, so you're having to do the research at the library on your own time and things like that. I introduced note cards a little bit, but I wasn't sure if that was something that was standard in the style of class, or if If there was one
Um,
style of note taking or flowing that's preferred.
I actually prefer your style, and I think it's a very like Korean student cultural thing where they feel like they have to be fully script from beginning to the end to make sure that they think that that's like going to secure their performance. So what I actually do in my class is like they can write all their notes, and then right before the debate starts, I just confiscate their notes, and then they're just gonna freestyle. But don't do this to all your students. You might get complaints, but just being a little bit cautious. But I just kind of do that with my students that I have had for very many years. But basically, I really want them to understand that debate is not writing an essay and reading out their essay. And actually, like by kind of, encouraging them to write notes and just like key bullet points or whatever, it actually gives them a lot more time to listen to the opponent team, which is something so many students struggle with. So if you can strengthen that and just, make sure that they only write certain keywords or like utilize actual like speech cue cards, go for it. I support you so much.
I'm
feel your
making sure that
pain.
I'm not, because I just got thrown into this and I was like, okay, debate, and then like it's Asian parliamentary, and I'm going, I've never taught Asian parliamentary before, but like the roles are similar, so
Yes, yeah.
preparation's pretty similar.
For like the special challenges that I explained before, basically some of the challenges are going to be like you're only allowed to write 10 bullet points in a note, and then you got to perform your speech. Or I might actually, so like there are exercises like that to reinforce their note taking, and so that we can kind of break them away from the full script type of thing. But
And
yes, very bad with that.
if folks are having struggles with flowing and note taking in their classes, there are a couple really good YouTube resources I've found just Googling or searching in YouTube for it. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you. Any more questions? Are you guys sure? Okay.
I know as far as resources that I found, I'm pretty sure most of the people that have been teaching know procon.org is great for pointing them in the right direction if they're having research problems. That's another one that my students seem to struggle with is they're great at writing their scripts and they're great at getting up and but they're still looking at their scripts and relying on their scripts and not thinking about what is the opposition team going to throw at me. So giving them the points of this is what you need to look for. Okay, teacher, what do I need to do now? Start researching what the other side's going to throw at you. That kind of a thing was what I've been working on with my current group. So
thank you.
how helpful that is.
Before I forget, I in the chat have shared the survey link, so please complete the survey. Oh my god, I knew I was about to say bye, but I was like, ooh, okay. Anyway, please complete the survey. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Man, I feel like I just wrapped through my workshop. I'm so sorry if I was unclear, but I'm sure you guys are very tired and want to stop hearing my voice, so.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi. Yes. I wanted to ask if you have already taken attendance because I came a little bit late, like at 5 minutes past 1. So I wanted to check if you took attendance already.
I can update my attendance for you. Hold on.
Thank you.
No problem. Robin.
Oh, sorry. Is there
Yes.
time for one more question? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, in a class that's really polarized, like it has a lot of experienced students versus novice students, what would you say is a really good way to arrange teams or to arrange your lessons? Because you're gonna have students who kind of already know what's going on, and then you'll have to reintroduce all those elements to the novice students. Is there a better way to go about that, or?
When I have a mixture of students who are experienced and who are not, what I am going to make sure I do is I'm not going to team up the experienced students against the non-experienced students. Because like it tends, like it just doesn't have a very positive effect in the class, because then the experienced start getting like a big head and they're like, oh, I'm so good and you're so bad, and then they just, it just doesn't really work. So what I always do is I make sure that I separate the experienced students. So it could be like, if I have 2 experienced students and then let's say I have 6 non-experienced, I will make sure that like the experienced students are on opposite sides, and then the experienced students can kind of also step in and try to like help the non-experienced. And I'm going to kind of make sure that those experienced students, without getting too much of an ego or whatever, I'm going to make sure that they can kind of like become a leader in that group. I think that often that does help a lot. However, sometimes obviously the students who are experienced, if they are always kind of trying to lead the team and all like their team members are unexperienced and they don't know what they're doing, the experienced students might kind of end up feeling a little like, oh, this is not fun anymore. So it is going to be, we do need to balance it. So what I kind of do is like by the first like 3-4 weeks, I will make sure that all the experienced students are separated. And then from week 4 or onwards, everyone's going to have at least some form of foundation. And the non-experienced students have 4 or 5 weeks of debate knowledge now anyway. So just to challenge them, I could put them against like experience versus non-experience, and then kind of, change it up a little bit like that. But yeah, I think it's very important, especially in the beginning of the term, to make sure that the experience are not grouped up.
Well, one other issue we have is that I think we'll be doing the 102 program, which means we'll be skipping over more of the beginner material that would have really helped the newer students. So trying to introduce things from the ground up, and we're not actually starting from the ground up. Is there a better way to go about that? Like terminology, basically.
If that is the case and you have to start with D102, I strongly recommend you to utilize all the skill lessons that are attached as the appendix, because basically all those pages that are currently in D101, if you use the pages that are attached in D102, it is going to be very similar, and you are going to be teaching them the fundamental terminology and stuff like that. The only issue would be that you might not have enough time to cover the attached skill lessons from D101, and then also introduce the newer debate skill lessons from D102. So it will just be a matter of like how much time you have. But in the very beginning, if you are dedicated to making sure that you prioritize getting them to have a solid understanding, you can always prioritize the skill lessons for like the first 3 lessons, and then you can kind of actually make sure you have more time for the debate in the later weeks. But I think that would be the best thing to do, because you do want to make sure that the students have a good understanding of what they're doing before you kind of like, oh, go and debate. So okay. I think, yeah, if you prioritize those appendix lessons, they are all attached at the end of the lessons for you in D102.
Thank you.
Oh, I think I had a question. Something? YTN. Sorry, YTN. If you go, so if you like look at YTN middle debate, if you type in that, you should get quite a bit of materials. Just yes. No problem. Also, before you go, I'm just going to take a photo of all, I won't take photos of your face, just the list of your names so I can correctly do the attendance, because there were a lot of people that did join at the very end. So, okay. Whew, thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. you. If you have any questions, please feel free to just email me. My email is just monicakim@purpose.com. So just email me anything, I will answer. But other than that, thank you so much for your time. Go have a great day. It's so sunny.
All
Bye,
right,
guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Monica.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I need to take Monica's energy and just
Honestly, like
I need that energy because I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum today. I'm like, I've got 2 classes to teach, and I think I came down with something one of the students
Oh,
brought to school. So I'm
no.
like, I'm dragging, and I'm like, energy, what? Where does that come from?
Oh, I hope you feel better.
Oh yeah, but one of my favorite things was when I introduced note cards. I just pulled them out of the desk that I had inherited from the previous teacher. I went, oh, note cards! I know how to work these. And one of my students goes, teacher, how do I use these? And I was like, well,
Oh.
there are lots of ways you can use it. Let's see, you can do this and you can do that. And I was showing her how to use them because that's what I'm used to. It's like, all right, you can
Yeah.
color code them and things like
Oh,
that. And then
yes.
she's like, teacher, where do I buy these? And I was like, Daiso. And then I went looking at my Daiso that's nearby and I can't find them. So now I have to find note cards. That's
Well,
normally,
I
is that
think just-
normally a stationery store kind of a thing or
Um,
coupon or?
I think no, majority of the stuff that we need are at like available at Daiso, but I would actually
I'm just
encourage you
not
guys to
seeing
just
them.
cut up A4
Cut up
paper,
paper.
and then just like have it as their palm size.
Yeah.
And then I think
Because
that
it
should
makes
be
it so much easier to have. It's like, okay, well, especially when you're working in a group, they ended up, I had a group of 5. And I split them into 2 teams. And the girls that took the cards actually took it on them to, they wrote their 3 arguments down and cut them up and had them drew lots on who was doing which argument or researching which argument. And I'm like, I didn't prompt this. I just gave you the tool. Good job. And I told them, I'm like, that's something that's really good. You took this tool and you used it in a way that I wasn't even intending you to use it. So good job for that. And they just said like, teacher, note cards. Yeah, as soon as I could find some. So I'll just have to make some papers.
That's good. That's very good. I hope
And
you
then-
enjoy your debate classes.
I'm having fun. It's interesting coming from the teaching perspective because that was my
Yeah,
my
you're on the
required
other end,
speech
yeah.
credit. That was my required speech credit for school because I was an introvert and I'm like, that sounds fun. And then I got thrown into a competition and my team thankfully was a really good team and only lost one of our debates. So
Well done. You will
and that
have
was
a lot
and
to
that was
teach
one
your
of those
students.
that was one of those pity votes because we had really strong arguments and we steamrolled the other team and the adjudicator felt really bad for them, so they won. But that's how it happens. But thank you
Yes.
for the workshop. I feel a little bit
No,
more
thank you
confident
so
going
much.
into the next term. So
Yes.
and I've
thank
got more
you.
people
Thank
to
you,
bother
thank you.
for help. So
Yes. No, it's not bother. What are you talking about?
bother, Monica's
Ask
gonna get a
anything.
million emails. You'll get a bunch of emails.
Yes, ask me, email me.
Absolutely.
But go eat something so you feel better.
I already ate, so I
Oh,
just gotta go
good.
get ready, go get coffee. I think coffee should help.
Me
You
too.
guys have a wonderful day.
Thank
Okay,
you,
bye.
guys.
Monica, have a nice
Bye.
day.